accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and forced. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances that a jury agreed.
Difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you gotta do that. I was fucked up. I hit rock bottom. I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video.
Sean Diddy Combs strolled into a Manhattan courtroom on May 5th expecting a smooth round of jury selection, but it didn't take long before things got wild. Judge R.N. Subramanian had
disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace.
poking fun at Combs's endless list of stage names and joking that the juror forms were longer than the Lord of the Rings reporters were scrambling for quotes, while Diddy, cold-faced in wire-rimmed glasses, sat there catching strays like the punchline of the day. But all the laughs faded fast once the real drama kicked in before a single juror took an oath Combs was staring down his most intense legal fight yet federal. Prosecutors hit him with 5 major felony charges, including 2 serious allegations, 2 counts of transporting individuals across state lines for illicit purposes, and 1 conspiracy count. According to the feds, Diddy allegedly ran a twisted operation for years using pressure tactics, fancy gifts, and cross-country trips to manipulate young women into shady situations.
I'm so sorry. I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
The prosecution says this whole setup was built to benefit his empire, raking in money and polishing his image, while hiding shady activity behind layers of staff shell companies and airtight NDAs. Combs, now 55, has pled not guilty to every single charge. He insists all interactions mentioned in the case were completely consensual, but if he's convicted on the top charges, he's looking at a possible life sentence, not to mention the loss of properties, flashy rides, and even his royalty checks. Assistant U.S. Attorney Rachel Collins told the court they've got the receipts. She said jurors will see a clear pattern: bank records, travel logs, and first-hand accounts that paint a picture of control, not consent. This was no accident. She claimed it was organized and strategic.
Hearing before Sean Combs' trial starts, when he walked into federal court today, he appeared to be looking for his family. They've pretty much been at all of the hearings that I've been to, but there was no presence of his sons or his...
Meanwhile, Combs's lawyer Benjamin Brahman fired back hard. He says the government twisted adult relationships into something criminal, arguing that what they're calling a crime is just flashy living and bad gossip. In a pretrial statement, Brahman claimed the whole indictment was stitched together from rumors, personal vendettas, and stretched out stories. That 5-count indictment, it only came to light this February after a full year of grand jury digging fueled by sealed lawsuits, company emails, and phone data that could flip this case upside down. Prosecutors claim Combs pulled out all the stops: private jets, luxury yachts, and tricked out tour buses to fly potential partners from city to city.
So here's what came out of today's hearing. Number 1, the government acknowledged that they offered Combs a plea deal. Combs acknowledged he has no interest in taking that. They're going to move forward with the trial.
Sometimes they say he dangled modeling gigs or music video roles to reel them in. 2 of the most serious counts accuse him of using force, fraud, or pressure in incidents that allegedly happened between 2016 and 2020. The travel-related charges focus on trips to Miami, LA, and Vegas, where Combs supposedly set up high-end hotel suites and brought in security teams that prosecutors say restricted the women's ability to move freely. All of it, they argue, falls under one big scheme, a so-called exploitation enterprise. That charge lets the government bring in even more evidence of conspiracy beyond the main 5 charges on paper. Court documents name 3 main accusers only listed by their initials and hint that at least 8 more witnesses are lined up to speak. And here's the kicker: a sealed court filing reveals that Cassie Ventura, the singer who reached a private settlement with Combs last year, has now been subpoenaed for potential rebuttal testimony. Things are moving Fast Judge Aaron Sub, Romanian, shut down the defense's request to delay the trial, saying the feds handed over enough discovery, even if some digital files showed up late, to keep the pressure off jurors. Amid the media storm, the judge ruled the jury would be anonymous and partially sequestered before the jurors stepped in. The judge even cracked another joke about Diddy's long list of stage names, saying his aliases might be as long as the jury questionnaire.
Also talked about the jury selection process, which one legal expert I spoke to said is probably the most important thing that you want to pay close attention to before the actual trial starts.
That form, it's a 120-question deep dive into social media use and past exposure to celebrity AB cases. Jury selection is expected to take 4 days, thanks to the high-profile nature of the trial. Combs made his entrance through a private tunnel under the courthouse, dressed sharp in a navy wool suit and rimless glasses. He got special approval to skip jail clothes, with prison officials allowing him just 2 suits, 4 ties, and 1 pair of dress shoes to rotate through the 8-week courtroom showdown. This criminal case comes right after a wave of civil lawsuits dropped on Combs since November 2023, accusing him of emotional control, violence, and disturbing behavior at wild parties, called freak-offs. But for now, those lawsuits are paused so they don't clash with this criminal trial that's heating up fast. Public court records reveal some heavy-hitting evidence: surveillance footage, encrypted chats, and banking data that prosecutors say track hush money flowing into third-party accounts.
And thirdly, we learned that Combs will be adding 2 new attorneys to his defense team. And just to recap, Combs, who is 55 years old, could spend the rest of his life behind bars if convicted on sex trafficking and racketeering. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
They claim these payments are part of a broader pattern of behavior backing the big conspiracy charge. But Combs' legal squad, they're calling it business as usual in the entertainment world, just routine NDA settlements. Nothing shady. They're bringing in forensic accountants to back that up, ready to testify that no sketchy money was moved and nothing was hidden in the books. Still, some legal experts are seeing echoes of the 2022 R. Kelly case, where feds use similar tactics to hit hard with a conspiracy conviction. Charging celebs under RACHO laws for personal conduct is rare, but it's starting to gain ground. Loyola law professor Lori Levinson said it straight: this kind of case is becoming more doable. The indictment includes a potential $140 million seizure targeting Diddy's fancy Beverly Hills mansion, a Long Island estate, and even the masters to his Bad Boy Records catalog. Yep, they're aiming to strip it all down. With the heat rising, Combs has already handed control of several business arms to stand-in managers his booze deal with. Yeah, that's done. And Revolt Media has installed a temporary board as advertisers start pulling back at a March court session. Prosecutor Rachel Collins laid it all out: 48 digital exhibits, 31 physical pieces of evidence, and close to 900 pages of financial records. She says the government will need 4 weeks just to make its case, and the defense will get the same if they decide to bring out their own witnesses' defense. Lawyer Benjamin Brahman is sticking to his script. He claims the accusers are just former insiders looking for a payout outside court. He told reporters will show that the timelines don't match up with the claims being made. One sealed defense exhibit even includes text messages from one of the main accusers thanking Diddy for changing my life and asking for career help. But prosecutors fired back, saying those messages don't prove anything real, just show how financial control was part of the manipulation. They also plan to introduce a 2019 audio recording from a studio session in LA, where Diddy allegedly went off on staff after a woman tried to dip from a private party. Brahman says that tape's misleading, doesn't relate to the charges, and wants it tossed out completely. Still, if Combs gets convicted on just the most serious counts, he could face a minimum of 15 years behind bars, and under RICO laws, the court can stack sentences and take massive chunks of assets, aiming to completely break down an alleged criminal setup.
Going to try and say that Diddy's mental capacity could not make it possible for him to commit these crimes, claiming that maybe drugs or alcohol could have been at fault.
The U.S. Attorney's Office said the case is about getting justice for survivors and holding powerful people accountable. Combs stayed mostly quiet in court, only confirming he understood the charges. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, protest groups are planning daily demonstrations, though the judge banned loudspeakers within 100 feet of the door. This trial is blowing up everywhere. Media monitors have already logged over 28,000 online and broadcast mentions, and it's just getting started. In just the first 24 hours of jury selection, it became clear finding jurors who haven't been influenced by the hype is going to be tough. Cable networks are already running live reports during the selection phase, and streaming platforms are prepping their own recap specials. The pressure's on, and it's not just legal. Combs' bad boy brand is already bleeding. Spotify saw a
The U.S. Attorney's Office said the case is about getting justice for survivors and holding powerful people accountable. Combs stayed mostly quiet in court, only confirming he understood the charges. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, protest groups are planning daily demonstrations, though the judge banned loudspeakers within 100 feet of the door. This trial is blowing up everywhere. Media monitors have already logged over 28,000 online and broadcast mentions, and it's just getting started. In just the first 24 hours of jury selection, it became clear finding jurors who haven't been influenced by the hype is going to be tough. Cable networks are already running live reports during the selection phase, and streaming platforms are prepping their own recap specials. The pressure is on, and it's not just legal. Combs' bad boy brand is already bleeding. Spotify saw a 12% drop in his monthly listeners back in April, and his fashion label Sean John hit pause on a new capsule collection. Still, some industry watchers are holding out. They point to other artists like Michael Jackson, whose music streams bounced back even after massive controversies. If Combs walks free, the damage might just be temporary. Music rights attorney Dina Leap said labels won't make any big moves until the verdict drops. Meanwhile, the feds are moving full force. Back in March, agents raided Combs' homes in LA and Miami, grabbing hard drives and security system servers. His defense team says those searches were way too aggressive and have filed to suppress that evidence. Judge Subramanian will hear that motion after jury selection wraps. Prosecutors claim the digital evidence tells a story: flight plans from his private jet, broker guest lists from nightclubs, and even facial recognition data to confirm who flew where and when. On top of that, the IRS is now running a separate audit digging into suspicious income from exclusive parties. No tax charges yet, but an IRS memo quietly filed in court hints at unreported cash flows. Combs' PR team came out swinging, saying the indictment twists his private life and ignores his philanthropy, like donations to HBCU and hurricane relief efforts. They argue the government is overlooking the full picture. Defense lawyers are also expected to argue that some of the claims fall outside the 10-year statute of limitations for the most serious charges, but prosecutors hit back, saying the alleged conspiracy was still active until at least January 2024, which resets the legal timeline. Judge Subramanian made one thing clear: the jury will hear about past civil settlements, but without any dollar amounts to avoid unfair bias. He even banned the phrase hush money, telling both sides to stick to privately negotiated agreements. Instead, if Combs is convicted, he'd face a second forfeit phase and a long present tensing review that could drag on for months. Appeals would head to the Second Circuit, the same court that backed the R. Kelly ruling. Based on similar arguments, jury selection is set to resume Tuesday. Opening statements will follow once 12 jurors and 6 alternates are locked in. The court has penciled in May 12th for testimony to kick off. As all this played out, Diddy sat silent in the Manhattan courtroom while federal prosecutors laid out their witness list: more than 20 people, including former employees, doctors, and airline staff who worked charter flights between 2016 and 2023. The government says their stories will pull back the curtain on years of intimidation, secret deals, and serious misconduct. Prosecutor Rachel Collins told the court that each witness would detail their role in moving alleged victims across state lines and hiding the money trail behind it.
A couple of weeks ago, the prosecution offered Diddy a plea deal, which he turned down. We don't know the details of what that plea deal entailed, but he said he's not taking it. This is coming after they've added additional charges, like the second superseding indictment.
Defense attorney Benjamin Brafman wasn't having it. He fired back, accusing the prosecution of ambushing the defense with last-minute names that only surfaced after the March raids on Combs' homes in LA and Miami. But Judge Subramanian shot that down, ruling the witnesses were fair game. He reminded everyone that under criminal rules, the government only needs to reveal its witness list after the jury is officially selected. This heated exchange went down on day 2 of jury selection, which has been crawling along As attorneys dig into whether potential jurors have been influenced by other high-profile SA cases, by late afternoon, just 9 jurors had been provisionally cleared from a pool of 150, all of them grilled with a 120-question survey that asked about media habits, music taste, and thoughts on celeb charity work. Outside court, Collins told reporters that the prosecution plans to show how Diddy's brand was used as a weapon, turning the glam into a trap.
2016, the judge says that it can be included after Diddy's defense team had been trying to have.
She says the evidence includes screenshots from encrypted messages and even rideshare receipts that place people in specific locations, but Braffman says all of that is twisted. He claims the messages are just normal back and forth, nothing more than consensual scheduling, and that the ride data was handpicked to fit a one-sided story. Inside the courtroom, both sides clashed over expert testimony. The prosecution wants to bring in a clinical psychologist to explain the concept of trauma bonding. Meanwhile, the defense wants to use a music industry consultant to walk the jury through common NDA practices. Judge Subramanian said he'll make the call before opening statements begin. Then came another big reveal. A sealed court document, now partially unsealed, shows that the government subpoenaed hotel security logs from major spots in Miami Beach, Vegas, and LA. These logs supposedly track room key usage by Combs and 3 unnamed accusers on nights that line up with the indictment. If that data checks out, legal analyst Lori Levinson says it's damning, showing the accusers and Diddy were together in locked-down locations just before the alleged incidents. And it doesn't stop there. 2 of Combs' former bodyguards have flipped. Both were given immunity. One plans to testify about a red code protocol used to confiscate phones at Diddy's parties. The other says he delivered cash-filled envelopes to mysterious drop-off spots. Braffman isn't buying it. He says the bodyguards are just bitter ex-staff trying to cut deals to dodge unrelated gun charges. He claims payroll records will show they were fired for stealing, not wronged, but the judge quickly reminded both sides no dirty shots unless they're backed by legit evidence. Judge Subramanian made it clear this trial won't turn into a circus of character assassinations. Impeachment can't become a trial within a trial, he warned. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, the tension was real. Court officers had to walk juror candidates through a separate entrance to dodge the protesters posted up out front. Members of advocacy group Silence Breakers stood with bold signs reading "Justice for Survivors," while a small group of fans played old-school bad boy bangers from early 2000s on portable speakers. Inside, the mood was way more serious. Combs, suited in charcoal, kept his head down, only breaking silence to quietly go over jury notes with his lawyers. His mother, Janice Kamolm, sat quietly 3 rows back, jotting notes in a small notebook. Then the prosecution dropped more heat. They're bringing in financial forensics expert Olivia Grant. She combed through a massive 2,400 transactions tied to Combs LLCs from 2018 to 2022, according to her report. $30 for $4 million left those companies via cashier checks labeled consulting or event advance sent to people who had no legit service contracts. Grant also found that $7.6 million was wired from Bad Boy Touring into an offshore account in Nevis, which later fueled the purchase of a lavish home Hills mansion, a property now in the crosshairs for seizure.
According to People magazine, they said prosecutors recently filed a motion disputing any testimony that might show that Sean Diddy Combs didn't have, quote, the mental capacity to commit the crimes he's accused of because of the effects of drugs or alcohol. The motion, filed on April 27th, references apparent testimony from a psychiatrist on behalf of the defense and asked the judge to prevent.
But Braffman fired back, calling the report speculative math. He says short-term consultants are common in entertainment and the Knees account totally above board and disclosed in IRS filings. The judge wasn't here to waste time. He slapped both sides with strict deadlines for expert disclosures and ordered them to prepare clean summary charts for the jury. Prosecutors also revealed that 2 accusers will testify under pseudonyms they'll describe being scouted at nightclubs, promised modeling deals, and then pushed into uncomfortable situations at Combs-owned residences. One accuser says she was secretly recorded and threatened with a career blacklist if she ever spoke out, but the defense plans to clap back with email threads showing the same accuser thanking Combs for life-changing chances and even asking for extra travel money. Prosecutor Collins shot that down, saying, "Those messages don't mean gratitude, they show how financial dependency was used to keep control." Music rights attorney Dina Liept, who's handled other celeb misconduct cases, chimed in from the sidelines saying, This trial shows just how blurry the lines can get between business moves and personal boundaries in the world of fame and fortune. As the drama kept unfolding, prosecutor Rachel Collins wrapped things up with a bold reminder jurors have to decide if behavior that looks sleazy is also criminal. That's the line this whole case is walking. The fallout didn't slow down on Tuesday. Sean John officially confirmed it's halting a summer collab, and Spotify slapped a disclaimer banner on Combs' songs directing listeners to news updates. Bad Boy Records stayed silent, no comment. Financial analysts warned that if streaming platforms start pushing Diddy's catalog down the ranks, his earnings could take a serious hit. Still, there's some hope. After R. Kelly's 2022 conviction, his listeners dropped 19% in just 6 weeks, but some of that audience crept back later. Meanwhile, the IRS jumped in again, telling the court it might file a restitution claim if Combs is convicted. They're deep into a parallel audit tied to income from those infamous freak-off parties. No tax charges have been added yet, but prosecutors made it clear they might supersede the indictment later if needed.
Combs will ditch the jail garb and wear ordinary clothes, as his lawyers argue the evidence shows consenting adults being intimate in their own way.
We have the latest from federal court in the Sean Combs criminal case. Status of jury selection, what Diddy's going to be wearing, violation of a gag order, rejecting a plea offer.
Judge Subramanian dropped another ruling. Any new civil settlements between Combs and accusers must be filed under seal to stop potential witness intimidation. He also reminded everyone no cameras allowed in court, only sketches will document the trial. Artist Elizabeth Williams confirmed she'll be releasing daily illustrations through a media pool. Federal marshals in a closed-door moment testified that social media threats led to heightened security, but they reassured the judge that Combs isn't facing any real danger inside the building. With jury selection dragging into Wednesday, attorneys were told to pick up the pace. The judge made it crystal clear stalling will cost you no wasting time. Court resources aren't endless. So far, 9 jurors are locked in with more questioning scheduled for tomorrow. Key rulings on expert witnesses are expected right before opening statements, now tentatively set for May 12th, and that's where things stand for now. This case is heating up fast, and we'll be keeping tabs on every twist and turn. If you're into breaking stories, legal drama, and all the behind-the-scenes action, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a drop. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is this a fall from grace, or just another celeb under fire? Share this with your crew, and we'll see you on the next one.